Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 28 of Women's Wrestling Focus, brought to you by SEScoops and hosted by me, Ella J of a Wrestling Gal podcast. And now we're on the brink of such an exciting weekend in professional wrestling, specifically with All Elite Wrestling taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada this weekend for their annual Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And there is so many fantastic matches on the card, 13 overall, but we will be taking a deeper look into 4 matches here in particular on Women's Wrestling Focus. So without further ado, let's get on with my predictions and a little bit of a preview for Double or Nothing. Now, on the last episode of Women's Wrestling Focus, we were previewing and predicting the AEW Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament, which now we know the finals to that tournament. So we will start off with that. We now know the official finals of the tournament of the first ever Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament. We are down to 2. We started with 8. We had, of course, a couple of qualifiers before that, but in the tournament itself, we started with 8, and now we are down to 2. And it's been a bit of a road, so we'll start with the left side of the bracket. Obviously, starting off the left side of the bracket, we had Jamie Hayter going against Toni Storm in the quarterfinals, and then Britt Baker going against the Joker on the left side of the bracket. Obviously, Toni Storm defeated Jamie Hayter. And then we had the DMD, the former AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker, taking on the Joker, who came in the form of Maki Ito. Maki arrived to such a pop from the AEW audience on Dynamite, but ultimately fell short, and Britt Baker advanced to the semifinals, where then she took on Toni Storm. And of course, on the right-hand side of the bracket, there was also some changes made there on the right-hand side of the bracket, whereas Red Velvet was originally scheduled to face Hikaru Shida, but unfortunately Shida was announced to have an injury, so Chris Statlander, More Than a Woman, was announced to be taking her place in the quarterfinals, where she took on Red Velvet and emerged victorious on Rampage. And of course, we also had Ruby Soho versus former AEW Women's World Champion Riho, and in the end, Ruby Soho advanced then to the semifinals, where she took on Chris Statlander yesterday on AEW Rampage. And this is where things get a little interesting. Too much crowd popped between Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander. It was really an epic battle between two allies, I would say. Of course, in the end, though, we did see Ruby Soho pulling off the win and advancing now to the finals taking place tomorrow at Double or Nothing. But on the other side of the bracket, we did have Toni Storm and Britt Baker clash this past week on Dynamite, where in the end, Britt Baker had a little bit of assistance from her ally Jamie Hayter to pull off the win against Toni Storm, then advancing to the finals. So officially tomorrow, in the first ever Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament, we have former AEW Women's World Champion, the DMD, Dr. Britt Baker, versus one of AEW's most beloved stars in Ruby Soho. Ruby has reached the finals of the TBS Championship Tournament before. Britt Baker now finds herself in the finals of the tournament following her loss a few months ago to the AEW Women's World Championship. So this is going to be a very intense finals. I really would love to see Ruby Soho pull off the win here, considering she did reach the finals of the TBS Championship Tournament, but fell short. And I really want Ruby to pull off the big one when it counts. I don't want her to falter in a finals of a tournament again. So I really am pushing for Ruby Soho to win. However, I can maybe see the argument in All Elite Wrestling's eyes, as Britt Baker just lost her championship back in March, and you want to regain her momentum. So what better way to win the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament? It's really a toss-up, but I am going to predict Ruby Soho here to win. I think it's time to shake things up in the land of AEW, because I know a lot of people are expecting Dr. Britt Baker to pull off the win here. However, I could maybe see AEW throwing us a curveball and having Ruby Soho take away the victory. So I'm looking for things to be shaken up. But I think this finals is really a beautiful final too. It's going to be really cool to see these two clash again. Again, we saw Ruby Soho vie for the women's championship when Britt Baker was champion last year. That was a cool bout. So I'm really excited for these two to kind of rekindle this little bit of a rivalry. I think it's going to be an awesome showdown in the inaugural finals, where the winner winner will be crowned the first Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament winner. I'm super excited for that matchup, but again, speaking of intense matchups, I think an underrated match on this card is going to be for the TBS Championship, as now Anna Jay will be vying for the TBS Championship as Jade Cargill defends. And so last week, the week before on Rampage, we did see Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander fall to a beatdown from the baddie section with Red Velvet to Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan. However, Anna Jay came to the rescue to back up her new allies, it seems. And so this kind of brought forth the storyline now as Anna wielded a crutch in the face of Jade Cargill on the baddie section that now she will be vying again for the TBS Championship against Jade Cargill tomorrow at Double or Nothing. We have seen Anna Jay compete for the TBS Championship tournament before and fell short. However, I'm glad that they are giving her another opportunity because it gives Jade some more competition to defend her championship, not only on just Rampage and Dynamite, but on pay-per-view. So hopefully this is the start of more of a pay-per-view opportunities for Jade Cargill on the TBS Championship. I'm really excited to see now this is the second championship matchup on the card besides the AEW Women's World Championship, which we'll get to in a moment. And so I'm excited for Anna Jay to get this opportunity. I do wish that there was a little bit more of a build, but I am excited to see Anna Jay in a championship picture after her alliance kind of with Tay Conti has now shifted, which we'll get into more of that later. So it seems Anna Jay is now being pushed as a single star, maybe in an alliance with Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander. Again, we'll see going forward, but the baddie section have been absolutely dominating as a trio, so maybe this is a sign to see the stars align between Anna Jay, Chris Statlander, and Ruby Soho. But again, I think that also depends if Ruby Soho wins the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament or not. But if she doesn't, does this maybe mean we could maybe see more of an alliance between Anna, Chris, and herself? We'll see what happens. But I do think here Jade Cargill ultimately continues her reign of dominance, her reign of undefeatedness. If that's even a word, we're going to make it a word. Jade Cargill is definitely going to retain here as much as I love my girl Anna Jay, my fellow Jay. I'm rooting for you, girl. But I do think at the end of the day, Jade Cargill is not dropping this TBS championship anytime soon. But it is really refreshing to see championships step up on a pay-per-view platform. I feel like that raises the stakes even more. And I'm really excited going forward to see who else steps up to Jade Cargill and where Anna Jay's path is going now as she kind of looks to more of a singles run, as it appears she's kind of split ways with Tay Conti, as Tay Conti is kind of preoccupied with another feud right now, which we will get into right now. Again, the third matchup on the card that we will be discussing here today is a mixed tag team match with Frankie Kazarian teaming with Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti versus the TNT champion Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Paige Vanzant. Now, this is going to be a really, really grueling battle, as we've seen Scorpio Sky really rival Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti throughout the last few months, and we've been seeing Paige Vanzant stepping up. But when you also bring Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian into the mix, this match is going to be very unpredictable, I do think, in a 6-man mixed tag match. I don't know what angle they could be going with here. I mean, Scorpio Sky defeated Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship a few weeks ago, so maybe they kind of want to shift the momentum a little bit more into Sammy's favor and have them take away the victory here. I know a lot of people too have eyes on Paige Vanzant, as this is her first pay-per-view match in AEW, so I think it's a cool opportunity for her to step up against somebody like a Tay Conti, who has been very consistent since AEW started up. And so I'm excited to see what Paige can bring to the table when the stakes are raised on a pay-per-view platform like Double or Nothing. And I think what better way to have Paige Vanzant debut in the ring on pay-per-view than to walk away with the victory alongside the TNT champion Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. I think this is really hopefully the start of an accelerated career path for Paige Vanzant. I think she can soar to new heights with this. Obviously, I think this feud is not ending anytime soon, and so I think a win here at Double or Nothing will really prove Paige Vanzant and really put her on a path to be really, really successful in AEW. However, I could also see the argument for Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti and Frankie Kazarian maybe sneaking in a win, but I think if you're going to start off Paige Vanzant, who's debuting on pay-per-view, you want to start her off strong, and so what better way than to take home the victory in this 6-man mixed tag match here at Double or Nothing tomorrow in Las Vegas. And of course, we do have one last matchup on the docket. We have the AEW Women's World Championship on the line as Serena Deeb goes on to challenge the current champion, Thunder Rosa. And this is not the first time that these two have met before. We have seen in the past when the NWA Women's World Championship was on the line, Serena Deeb took home the victory against Thunder Rosa to become the new NWA Women's World Champion. So will history repeat itself? That's kind of the big question here with these two. I think it's really refreshing to see Serena Deeb in the championship picture. She won that Philly street fight match against Hikaru Shida a few weeks ago to earn this opportunity at Double or Nothing. But I'm expecting and knowing no less than honestly a fantastic match between these two. These two are definitely going to bring it, no doubt. And I do believe Thunder Rosa will retain here. Her reign has started off a bit slow, but hopefully a win here will also put her on track to bring in more competitors and bring in more competition on her AEW Women's World Championship reign. I think this match really has the opportunity to set the tone and set her up for a successful championship reign going forward. It's going to be a banger between two of the best wrestlers in the world right now, between Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. I have no doubt about the quality of this matchup. I do hope to, in Serena Deeb's loss to Thunder Rosa here, that I'm predicting that also Serena does not get lost in the shuffle, because she has so much capabilities in ring performance. I mean, we've seen her in her open challenges absolutely dominate, and I really think it's set up beautifully for her going into this, as kind of she's been on a tear the last few months, feuding with Hikaru Shida and being victorious in these open challenges, that now she is a formidable competitor to Thunder Rosa. I do think, however, Thunder Rosa is definitely going to take home the victory here in her first pay-per-view title defense since winning the championship. This is definitely Thunder Rosa's time to truly shine with the AEW Women's World Championship, and hopefully it is the start of an upward trajectory for this championship reign so far and going forward. But that is all the matches involving the women at Double or Nothing this weekend. It's going to be an exceptional card. There was 13 matches overall, 4 of them involving women, 2 championships on the line, 1 tournament final, 1 mixed tag match. It's going to be an absolutely stellar pay-per-view. We're in Las Vegas. Go big or go home. I think there's definitely going to be some surprises up their sleeves. I could be potentially wrong with all of these, but that's the fun of it. And of course, I want to know your predictions though too. Let me know down in the comments down below, who are your predictions for the AEW Women's World Championship, the TBS Championship, the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and of course the mixed tag match. There's a lot of championships on this card and also a lot of matches itself. Which match are you most excited for? Honestly, I'm also very excited for CM Punk versus Adam Page for the AEW Championship. That's going to be a super fun match. But also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to SEScoops so you can be first informed on all the exclusive content here on YouTube. And so, for episode 28 of Women's Wrestling Focus, this is Ella J signing off for AEW Double or Nothing.